Today, we're going to talk about 7 daily habits for success. And the reason I want to speak about this topic is people are often looking for things that they need to do on a consistent basis, looking for the next breakthrough that they're going to be able to make, whether they're talking about their business, their personal life, their physical life. And in many cases, what happens is people look for these grandiose solutions and things that are so far off in the future that they do not have daily directive actions that they can take that lead them towards a result. Right? If we want to look at what it takes to be successful in any different realm, what does it come down to? It comes down to the action steps that we are taking on a consistent basis. And so if we don't get clear on what those are and what these components can be, then it becomes very difficult to take the necessary action steps that are required to get the best possible results. Funny enough, as I'm looking at this right now, I've got a bracelet on from my daughter. Anyway, something I kind of forgot. Cool. So number 1, wake up early. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. That would be the one and only Ben Franklin. And so when it comes to being more productive, in many cases, people who do things first in the morning, they do that most important task, tend to prioritize the things that are going to move the needle most in their life. Let me give you a quick example. When I first started Bach Performance, this is when I was probably 22, 23 years old. I was working with clients in the gym from about 6 p.m. until 6 or 7 in the evening out in Denver, Colorado. And I knew I wanted to at least start building an online profile. I had no idea what Bach Performance would come. I had no idea all the social media, any of that stuff. But I was an avid reader on places like T-Nation, bodybuilding.com, every muscle magazine, everything you could potentially imagine. Growing up, I was reading Jay Ferruggia, Eric Cressy, John Romanello, all these kind of old school online figures that are still absolutely crushing it today. And so I realized that if I wanted to be able to build a business that gave me more flexibility, it gave me more freedom in my life, the online component, right? That I would have to be able to put in the work. But I looked at my life and I said, you know what? If I'm doing all this additional work that's going to have to get done if I want the outcome in the evening, it's going to leave me no time for my relationship with Lauren, my girlfriend at the time, my wife now. You can see how that worked out, right? And so the decision for me was I can control more of my schedule early in the morning. I'm not going to have any other distractions that are in my day. And so if I commit to writing, to building my business in the shadows at 4 or 5 in the morning before I'm training clients at 6, I get that most important thing done early in the day before all the distractions take hold. So in a realm of business, if you focus on the most important task, the needle mover that is going to have to get done first, you always make sure that you are doing the most important thing first. And when you do the most important thing first, good things tend to happen. Now, when it comes to health, when it comes to fitness, one thing that I've noticed specifically with my clients, and I've been fortunate to work with some of my clients for 15 years and counting at this point, is 1, they typically do get up early and they focus on the most important task. And in some cases, if exercise is one of those things that they value highly, they get that workout done first thing in the morning. I reflect on my client, Brian. Brian's been incredibly successful in the oil and energy sector. And he, like clockwork, has been a client at 6 a.m., 3 days a week, come rain or shine, regardless. When I was in Denver, he lived about 25, 30 miles away from downtown and would drive downtown before his workday, show up at 6 a.m., coffee in hand, and we would go through and crush that workout. And speaking with him on why he made that a priority was, 1, he knew that if he prioritized his health, he would perform better in every other area of life. But 2nd, he had to do it in the morning before the demands of his career would take over, before social engagements in the evening or time with his family would intrude later on. And so if you are struggling to lock in a habit, if you're struggling to make progress on the most important thing in your life, whether it's personal or professional, carve out time first thing in the morning. Will it stink in the beginning to wake up a little bit earlier? Maybe. It might, but it might not. And the reality is, if we make time for the things that are the most important for the goals that we have and we get them done first, the feeling of self-accomplishment you're going to have to kick off your day really sets forth a chain reaction where you just start stacking wins and you kick ass each and every single day. So wake up early, because early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Shout out Benjamin Franklin. Number 2, have some form of meditation or prayer. Whether you're religious or not, doesn't matter to me. To me, though, taking time to sit down and be with your thoughts and to decompress is absolutely crucial. We have so much external noise in today's world that not taking the time to slow down, there's a higher power that you believe in, to speak to that higher power, to even step back and get clear on what your own thoughts are. It's easy to live a life that is pretty soon out of alignment with what you care about, what you want to accomplish most. And so one of the benefits of being able to step back, have a meditation practice, have a practice with prayer is first, it teaches us to sit silently with our thoughts and not necessarily judge them, right? That's an incredibly crucial thing, a skill to develop, especially if you're a hypercritical person who's always looking to push forward in your goals. And so the ability to sit down, to realize that like your thoughts are not always your actions, and then that you can more or less become comfortable with the silence. You can look to a higher power. You can ask for help if that's something that you need. Perfect. Like that becomes a skill set where it's allowing you to pull back, be introspective in terms of what matters to you, where you're struggling, be at peace with your thoughts, and build that overall practice. Of course, we can also look at the other health benefits directly related to meditation and prayer. We can look at overall stress reduction, more gratitude, more presence. All of these things will help you improve and show up as a better version of yourself in every other area. So have some form of meditation practice or prayer. When it comes to meditation, a couple helpful apps that I found. The Calm app is a great one. In addition, Headspace does a number of different courses and short meditations. I believe previously they had a free trial, which I've used multiple times. I guess a few too many emails, but that those can be very helpful tools to help you build that practice. Ideally, if it's a habit that you're struggling to build, again, do it first thing in the morning, and you're going to be much more likely to stick with it. Daily habit number 3, read something, anything. Now, yes, audiobooks, stuff like this is incredibly helpful. Reading social media posts, I guess that can be helpful as well. But ultimately, if you can grab a book, it's going to have a much bigger impact on your ability to consume and retain information, especially having a tangible book. It can create more activation within your reticular activating system, which can help you distill and understand the knowledge at a deeper level when you have that tangible book in your hands. In addition, when you are reading, when you're consuming information, don't just glance over it, actually take notes. One thing that I do that makes a huge difference in terms of my ability to consume and actually retain information is when I am reading a book, many times I'll listen to the audiobook. So yeah, I'll buy it on Audible and I'll read it, and I'll be taking notes inside of the book. So I'm scribbling all over inside of the book. And when I finish a book, I actually take all the notes and I throw them into a document. And the reason is, it's one thing to consume information. It's another one to be able to actually distill it in a way that makes sense to you and to your brain. And so if you want to be able to read something, to build a skill, to build a knowledge base around something, it's not just enough to consume the information. You have to be actively engaged in processing the information and putting it together in a way that makes sense to you. And so just as an example, like a few books that I like to read on a regular basis, Effortless by Greg McKeown. This is an incredible book for simplifying really what you're focusing on and making life, frankly, a little bit more effortless. Number 2, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Again, what can make you most effective is going to help you every area of your life. Number 3, The One Thing, The Surprising Truth Behind Extraordinary Results by Gary Keller. This will help you simplify and get clear on what matters most to you. Number 4, The Psychology of Money. The Psychology of Money gives you timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness. From a psychological perspective, this book is incredibly helpful for understanding how to not only just like make money, but manage money and understand people's mindsets around it. Fair or not, money makes the world go around. And so a lot of the scripts that we have running around us financially determine many of the decisions that we do or we do not make. And so understanding that is absolutely crucial to being able to use your money in a way that is beneficial for your values. Atomic Habits by James Clear, Tiny Habits and Remarkable Results. Ultimately, our actions, our daily habits are what determine our outcomes. And so we can improve our habits when we can act congruent with the things that we want to accomplish most. And then we can avoid the things that we least want to do. Then acting in that alignment is what builds confidence. It builds self-concept. And as we continue to nail the goals we set forth in front of us and we build those habits, our level of performance in every area of life continues to grow. And then finally, Daniel Pink, To Sell is Human, The Surprising Truth About Moving Others. The reality is everything in life to an extent is a sale. Doesn't mean I'm not talking about hopping on the phone and doing a high ticket sale, selling a house, whatever it is, but being able to express an opinion to help people move in a direction that's going to be most potentially beneficial for what their goals are really is the crux of creating influence, of helping people in general. It's one thing to have a lot of information, but it's also another to be able to have a conversation with somebody, help them understand what actions are going to be most in alignment with what they want to accomplish, and then help them move directly towards it. If you have kids, think about it. every interaction with your kid early on is trying to get them to do something that's likely in their best interest to help them develop. And we need to be able to communicate on a way where that's absolutely crucial. And so some people look at sales and sales materials as something that is swarmy used car salesman. The reality is it's all about persuasion and it's all about psychology. And so when you can understand these concepts, you can become so much more effective as a teacher, as a leader, as a communicator. And tell you what area of life is not going to be improved by developing those skill sets. Daily habit for success, number 4, gratitude. Having a gratitude practice is crucial for understanding the results that you've gotten up to this point and being happy, even if you're not always satisfied with the things that you are accomplishing. I like the thing about this is always measuring progress by looking backward. We live in a society where we have a ton of hustle porn. People are so excited to find the next thing to push harder and harder and harder. And if we always are chasing something that's in the future without ever taking a step to look back at what we've already accomplished, it can lead to a lot of feelings of inadequacy because there's always an impossible vertical, right? I mean, how many stories have you heard of people who have everything, billionaires who have everything, yet they continue to chase more money and then they burn down everything else that they value? In many cases, this is a lack of gratitude for the things that they have and continuing to chase more, and more, even if it doesn't necessarily serve what's in alignment with what they care about most, right? So when it comes to gratitude, a few things I like to do is, one, I use a 5-minute journal, a very simple little notebook. You can check out the 5minutejournal.com and write 3 things at the end of the day that went well that you can learn from. Right. And when we take the time to actually step back and reflect on how far we've come, that's when we start to build confidence in our ability to control our own destiny. You see a lot of people who struggle believe that success is not something that they can accomplish. They have an external locus of control. People who build an internal locus of control realize that they can accomplish great things. And if it's to be success, if they are to be successful, it is within their capabilities of doing so. However, if you never reflect back on what you've previously done, it's really impossible to give yourself a lot of credit, especially today when, again, everything is a comparison trap with an impossible vertical to keep up with. When it comes to that, in terms of health and nutrition, don't beat yourself up if you're not being perfect with your diet or with your training. Instead, look at where were you 3 months ago? Where were you 6 months ago? And when I'm saying where were you, what type of habits did you have? What was your perspective when you were going out to eat? What was your relationship with alcohol, right? All these different things, we can look back and yeah, I've made gradual improvements in these different areas. And when we start to see the improvements that we've made, sometimes even if some of the biometrics, like your weight, your body fat hasn't necessarily shifted as fast as you want, you can see that you're taking the necessary actions that are required to accomplish your goals. And ultimately, we cannot determine how fast the result will come, but all we can control is the output that we are putting in towards accomplishing said goal. And gratitude is a great way to build in that self-reflection to understand the hard work that you're putting in, that you've already accomplished, and understanding that you are doing the right things and success will come when you have done the prerequisite amount of work. Gang, apologies for the heavy blinking. It is full on allergy season here. Before I lived in the South, it is absolutely insane. I had no idea that I would walk outside and think it's hazy outside, but really it's yellow pollen falling off of all of the trees. So get some of that in your eyes. Tell you what, you are in for a day. Habit number 5 of successful people is regular, consistent exercise. Listen, I know you're busy. You've got a lot on your schedule, but what we have to think about exercise is it's not just about burning calories or looking a certain way. When you are exercising, you are improving the performance of your meat suit, your body, down to the cellular level. The evidence is clear. Exercise is incredibly powerful for mental health, for mental clarity. Learning new exercises actually boosts neuroplasticity. We are developing new neural connections inside of our brain. When we're doing this, we're staying sharp. This can prevent long-term illness and disease. We know that improving blood flow down to the cellular level is going to improve cognitive function. We know that exercise itself can actually improve working memory and memory consolidation. We know that low-intensity exercise can dramatically reduce stress and improve feelings of mental well-being. And of course, if we look at life, if we look at success, what do we need to absolutely crush life? Well, we need to be more effective with the time that we do have. So we need to have more energy, and we need to be able to expend plenty of energy in doing the things that are necessary instead of feeling tired, groggy, and lethargic. And so all of those key things are improved directly via exercise. Now, of course, we have our Look Great Naked protocol. Most of our clients, they train 4 days a week for about 45 minutes. benefits. They build muscle, lose fat, look great naked, all of that good stuff. But the overall principle here is find what type of exercise you will do consistently and just build that habit first. A lot of people with exercise try to optimize what they're doing before they're even consistent with the basics. And so for most people, find what you enjoy first, work to create a habit where you're training 3 to 4 days per week, and then you can work on optimizing the behavior from there. As a quick example, like my personal preference is lifting. I love to lift. I mean, cardio, like I'll do it for the health benefits, but I don't necessarily enjoy it. On the flip side, my wife, Lauren, you know what? She is a competitive runner. She can just run, cardio all day, right? She enjoys it. And then weightlifting, did she like it? Hell no. She would rather go for a 10-mile run than go lift weights. But you know what? She makes time for both of them. Much and I make the same way for the cardiovascular benefits, because when we exercise and we challenge our body with these different methods, then we're improving our body down to the cellular level. We are improving our ability to have energy, to focus, and to show up as that best version of ourselves. Taken a step further, when we're exercising, we are building that habit of discipline and delayed gratification. We live in a world where we want instant gratification. We want results yesterday, and we have less attention than a goldfish. What we need to be able to do is we need to be able to take action where there is a delayed benefit of seeing the results of that action. And when we develop that skill set with exercise, we can apply it everywhere else in life. When you think about it, it's kind of like when you're in school and you're studying at the beginning of a semester. You do not have the answers to the test that's going to happen at the end of the semester. You're gradually building that skill set. And when you build that knowledge base, the idea is that knowledge base that you build is going to be able to be a foundational piece for you. And it's going to provide that foundation for more knowledge down the road, even if you're not quite there yet. Need to think about is step back sometimes from what the clear-cut goal is with our exercise, focus on the process itself and building that habit. And once we do it, then that path that we need to take going forward becomes more clear. Daily habit number 6 for success: eating at consistent times. Now, you might wonder, what the heck does this have to deal with success? So the reality is, like when people who are most successful, they do not operate on a whim. They have a clear-cut schedule. They know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, and why they are doing it. And so reason this is important is if we are inconsistent with the times that we are eating on a regular basis, guess what? Our hunger signals are going to be all over the map. When our hunger signals are all over the map, our eating starts to get inconsistent. When our eating gets inconsistent, we start to deal with more cravings. We tend to fall off track. We act out of alignment with what we want most. And so when you think about your day, setting up meals at consistent times really serves as little foundational pieces where you are doing some form of self-care for yourself, right? And so when you can start to be consistent, when you can start to lock in eating at consistent times, that's only going to help you stay more consistent with your diet and your approach, but it's also going to serve as a way to regulate mood and regulate energy levels throughout the day. The people who are most successful in our coaching programs are the ones who do eat at consistent intervals. Whereas one of the biggest issues I see with people when they come in is they don't have a plan for food. And so they barely eat during the day. Then energy levels crash in the afternoon. Then they get stressed out at night. And then the cravings ramp up after they put their kids to bed or after they get time to unwind. And pretty soon they are undernourished, but overfed. And it feels like they're doing everything right, but not eating a whole lot and still gaining weight. So eating at consistent times can be a bedrock key principle in terms of solidifying your energy levels, keeping your cravings and your stress levels at bay so you can look, feel, and perform your best on a daily basis. A simple strategy that I like to deploy here is our 4-4-40 muscle meal method. This means 4 meals about 4 hours apart with at least 40 grams of protein during each and every single meal. So for me, that's eating breakfast around 6:30 in the morning with my wife and daughter. Around 11 a.m., I have lunch. Around 3 p.m., I'm generally having my workout meal. And then around 6 or 7 p.m., we're having dinner as a family. And so when you break it down, it's a very simple way to balance out what you're doing consistently, even build in some of those breaks, and it's going to help you control cravings and stress all the way through the day. Finally, daily success habit number 7 is taking decisive action. People who are successful do not dilly-dally. They do not ask 37 people for their opinion. They make a decision and they roll with it. I always like to reflect back on the work of former Secretary of State Colin Powell. And so his decisions that he made affected millions of people every single time he made a decision. And so when you're in a position such as being Secretary of State, you can only imagine the incredible amount of information that they have to be able to distill. There's never all of the information present, right? But if they delay, they're never going to be able to make decisions fast enough in an ever-changing world. And so he had a profound rule called the 40-70 rule. And it's simple. He said if he had less than 40% of the information, he wasn't ready to make a decision. But if he needed more than 70%, then he was taking too long. And so the overall crux here is not just like thinking, oh my God, when am I at 40%? When am I at 70%? It's understanding that you're never going to have all the information. And if you constantly chase it, you're going to be indecisive and never take action. And people who are most successful take decisive action. They don't say, I'm going to wait for when I'm less busy to start taking care of my health. They don't say, well, I need more motivation. This isn't going to happen until I'm more motivated. And the motivation fairy comes by and all of a sudden gives me endless motivation, right? So we need to be able to take decisive action, because what ends up happening is when you take decisive action and you start moving in the direction of your goals, guess what? The answers become more clear. One way I like to look at this is, when I'm consulting with other coaches who want to get started on creating a coaching program, and they say, well, you know what? I have to create the perfect program for my clients before I get started. Well, the reality is you're never going to have a perfect program. And then the second reality is you're never going to actually have a better coaching program until you get feedback from people who are actually doing it, right? Much in the same way, if you are trying to find the best way to lose fat or build muscle and you're not getting started because you don't have enough information yet, you'd be much better off acting on the information that you do have, finding if that particular method is working well for you, where it is working, where it's not, and then making improvements from there. So ready, fire, aim, and then you can course correct as you're gathering data with that information. You're going to succeed exponentially faster in every area of your life, whether we're talking health, wealth, or your relationships, if you get started and take decisive action instead of diddly-dallying, twiddling your thumbs and waiting for the perfect time to get started.
Did you find this helpful? If so, pound that like button and hit subscribe. Now, if you want a free copy of our Chiseled Muscle Cheat Sheet, the no BS way to help you lose body fat and build lean muscle in 90 days, make sure that you go to the description below and download your free copy. Any questions? Drop them in the comments, and can't wait to see you with the next video.